approximately $2.1 million. That equates to $420,000 for the township. Project is Peck Orchard Road Bridge over tributary to East Branch Salmon Brook. State Project 64-82. As far as the project history, the town has been pursuing federal funds for several years. They received the funding back in 2010. They selected WMC back in 2012. Received a notice of receipt in March of last year. All the field work, the survey, traffic counts, soil borings, and our detailed inspection, wetland flagging, and so forth was all completed by June of last year. We did a preliminary engineering studies report that investigated several alternatives for the particular site as far as the bridge structure is concerned. Back in October of last year, and the alternative was approved by the state in January of this year. Essentially, as far as the existing structure is concerned, it was constructed back in 1941. It consists of 26-foot, 43-foot long corrugated metal pipes, and it has about a 50-degree skew. And the stone, the head walls and the wing walls are constructed of cemented stone masonry. As far as the condition of it, the condition of the actual culverts, there's several perforations and so forth, and section loss at the base or the bottom of the invert of these pipes. So based on the most recent DOT inspection report, it's in a serious condition. As far as the retaining walls, according to that recent report, they're in relatively good condition. Overall, the structure is in serious condition. The actual bridge width that's out there today is 20 feet curb to curb, which is actually inadequate for the amount of traffic based on federal guidelines. We need a minimum of 24 feet curb to curb. As far as the watershed, it's actually a relatively small watershed for the river, just under half of a square mile, which equates to a small structure, and the design storm is for a 50-year design storm. Hydraulically, the current structure is adequate with 1.3 feet of freeboard to the low point in the road. There's no scour issues at this time, since the culverts have there's basically their pipes with bottoms on it. There is no historical significance to the structure. In conclusion, based on the overall condition of the structure, it warrants a full bridge replacement. So back to, again, back in October, we performed a preliminary engineering study report, looked at three alternatives, structural alternatives for the site. One was doing a rehabilitation to the actual structure. One of the other ones was replacing the structure with a single 128-inch by 83-inch aluminum corrugated metal pipe arch. And we also looked at a 13-foot span precast three-sided box culvert on reinforced concrete abutments. And ultimately we recommended the third alternative, which is a 13-foot span precast concrete box culvert. Essentially we'll be widening curb to curb bridge width from 20 feet existing today to 24 to meet the FHWA guidelines. And let's see, the road will be closed to traffic and detoured. One of the reasons for choosing the third alternative over the rehabilitation and the corrugated pipe, it was the most cost-effective option, ease of construction, minimizes construction time, and low estimated future maintenance costs with the precast components. It also improves the fish passage, 'cause, basically with that clear span, there's not going to be a bottom, so there'll be a natural bottom for the fish to pass through. As far as the project, again, we're at the 30% stage of the project. As far as the roadway, I'm looking at the roadway plan here. What you see in yellow is the areas of the road that are going to be fully reconstructed. It's approximately 550 linear feet of roadway reconstruction. Again, going from 20 feet roughly curb to curb, what's out there today, to widening slightly in both directions, about an additional 2 feet in both directions for ultimate 24-foot curb to curb. A couple of other improvements. There's major drainage improvements as part of the project. We're basically implementing the installation of rip-wrapped swales that are engineered to handle the drainage runoff of these very steep slopes that are out here. Rip-wrap actually slows down the velocities. Right now, existing with those kind of slopes, we're getting a lot of erosion, which you're probably aware of, all the runoff from the road. With the implementation of rip-wraps, we're actually able to slow the velocities down. Currently, now it's roughly estimated at 5 to 6 feet per second. We're actually, with the rip-wrap, we'll actually slow that down to 2 to 3 feet per second. What that also will do is keep the water quality improved from where it is today, and less sediments will get into the stream. And also on the opposite side here, we're also adding a modified rip-wrap swale as well, with a little bit of a check dam here. This area here, the velocity is not as much, but that'll help with a lot of the runoff issues that are currently there today. And as far as roadway alignment, we're horizontally, we're essentially kind of leaving the alignment similar to what's out there today. But one of the improvements that we're doing is actually cutting this bank that's over here to allow for more sight distance around this corner. As you kind of see in this photo here, you can really see anybody around that corner. So what we're doing is actually cutting that for safety reasons, opening that up. And you can kind of see that depicted in, these are basically slices through the proposed road and across the road perpendicular. And kind of shows, again, the added swales for the drainage that were perhaps swales. And then also showing how steep the existing slope is. We're going to have to lay that back and cut it back. So it kind of opens that up so you have more sight distance for safety and so forth. As far as the vertical geometry of the road, again, this is a exaggerated scale, engineering scale. So the vertical is actually exaggerated 10 times the horizontal. So it does look very abrupt, but it is, as you know, very steep out here at about 15% grade and transitions to about 7% grade. We're going to be raising the road slightly, well, about 2.8 feet. Approximately 75 feet north of the existing bridge, and basically to flatten out the vertical curve that's out there today, and improve the design speed from 20 miles an hour to 25 miles an hour.
That's a joke.
60.
Yeah, it's more like 60 if you're from Massachusetts.
And again, that's based on geometrics, and looking at the criteria of geometrics to provide a 25-mile design curve. However, as you know, as you're aware, we actually did speed checks out there as well. And as far as that 85th percentile, we were getting 40 miles an hour from Mass down, and about 35 in the opposite direction.
Any accident data?
Every year somebody runs off that road. There are bumper cars in the snow, girl flipped her
Well,
everybody smashes.
we've
it.
actually had 3 vehicles end up in the brook, so.
Coming downhill usually.
Yeah, usually downhill. They're on Henry's lawn, they're at
Usually
the,
2 a year on my lawn.
yeah, they're up on the,
This should help.
whatchamacallit, on the guardrail.
No, I think it won't be worse than that. People will be driving faster.
Yeah.
It'll be more of a safety issue. But
Well,
continue
one-
with
yeah,
your.
I mean, one of the things too is by widening it too, it would be a little bit more safe passage for bi-directional traffic too.
Yeah, I don't.
Because that's kind of part of the problem, plus the sight distance issue. You know, if a car is stopped, you can see it a lot sooner.
As far as the speed, the only way you're gonna stop that is get the state police out there.
Correct. Yeah. So then, so the next thing to do is, as engineers, is, you know, is to make it safe. So so there's a lot of safety improvements that we're including in the project as well. Like again, widening the road a little bit, cutting that slope for better sight distance. Also adding middle guide rail protection. And the protection that's out there now is kind of rudimentary, just a post. So it's not going to stop a car. It's just going to guide a car, but it's not going to stop a car, as well as, you know, a barrier or the guide rail system that we're proposing out there now. So,
That's steep.
Yeah, it's like-
Wow. Steep.
as far as the structure goes in more detail, placement structure, again, colors are all concrete, but getting yellow is the roadway reconstruction limits. Everything you see in orange is basically the retaining walls that we're going to be adding, and then also the actual three-sided box that's in this area here. And again, with the swale, we're talking about the drainage swales, and then also we're going to be doing some riprap protection of the banks too, to stabilize the banks.
Now, that riprap, is that covered? Because that's my access, that's my road frontage, since I'm a back lot. Is that just gonna be an exposed riprap, or?
Right now, we're showing it as exposed.
Yeah,
But I guess that's something we can work with you on.
You've shown 2 size ripraps, the large riprap at the
Yes.
head walls and then the small riprap coming up.
Yeah, there's actually, again, this is more of a steeper area, and there's a lot more runoff to that particular drainage area is about close to 3 acres. So there's a lot more water going down that, so we're using a heavier riprap.
Which size are you using?
What's that, what size?
Yeah.
Intermediate riprap. in
What's
here.
the average aggregate size? These guys will get a
Huh?
commercial. What is the average aggregate size for intermediate? Do you remember?
Intermediate,
Six
it's about
to-
9
6
inches.
to 9? 6 to
Yeah,
9?
9 inches.
So that's on an average for
Yeah.
intermediate.
9 to 18 inches, basically.
Is there gonna be a sediment pit or something to clean out there? There's a lot of erosion on the hill.
Well, I think part of it is that once this is stabilized, we're gonna get a lot less sediments that are transported, you know, like you do today.
I mean, there's a lot of tons of sediment going that stream right now.
Right, so it's gonna capture a lot of that. I mean, the other thing we can even do is put strategic check dams in here that make it a little easier to, you know, capture the sediments and easier to be able to clean out. And that's what we're kind of doing actually on this. Back to this main map again,
You have no drainage structures with sumps, it's primarily riprap and
just a whole open system, similar to what's out there now. But obviously
Environmentally friendly.
armored. And we're also, with that riprap, that's, you know, obviously it's a little rougher surface, that's gonna slow those velocities down, you know, tremendously. And again, there's a check dam here too, so that'll pile up some of the sediments right here.
Yeah, I think we probably should have some place where we can actually clean
Yep.
sediment out every
Yep.
so often
Yep.
on both
And
sides.
again, we're anticipating that that's probably something that would have to be done maybe once every couple of years. So that's what we're anticipating.
That could be,
They'll have a set plan.
and will it stay in state for guys that own construction companies in this state, or will it go to Yahoo's out of Massachusetts and,
I guess I have to ask the DOT to.
Goes to the lowest bidder.
yeah. Great.
It can be from Hackensack.
Yeah, yeah.
Lowest pre-qualified bidder.
Yeah.
And usually the towns will use our state of Connecticut pre-qualification list.
Yeah,
They will have the option of doing that. I imagine they will take us up on that.
Yeah.
So it is the lowest pre-qualified. That's correct. I imagine you could get some Massachusetts firms.
yeah. I don't know, who did the one on whatchamacallit? Silver Street.
Silver Street came out nice.
Connecticut.
Yeah, oh, is our bridge gonna look like that, or?
These
No,
guys,
would never look like that. There's too much money on Silver Street, you know?
Infrastructure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
these guys were the designers.
Oh, yeah,
it was,
yeah.
Again, that was a
That must have been a nightmare.
larger watershed,
yeah.
larger span, so forth and so on.
That's pretty impressive what you guys did down there.
And again, we're gonna be doing something similar to, as far as the treatment of the concrete.
Oh, it'll look,
To give it a similar look like the
so we'll
stone.
maintain that kind of,
Yeah.
the stone look,
Yeah,
whatever?
we can
Yeah.
sort of mimic something similar to
Yeah.
what's there now, with basically that form.
The
It's a
stamp,
form
whatever,
line.
yeah,
It's like a
yeah.
form liner, and it
Yeah.
looks like stone, but a lot more inexpensive
Yeah.
alternative.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Maintenance too, yeah.
right, that's maintenance as well. Yeah, so back to the bridge, as far as what it's gonna look like if you're actually standing down in the stream. This is basically an upstream elevation, so if you're standing basically, looks like here, looking this way, that's what you'd see. So again, these long walls are necessary to keep, as you know, the water, which is blue here, right? Kind of runs parallel with the stream here, with the road, and then also in this, all the way
That's what
down here
drove
as
the
well.
cost up quite a bit then, or?
What's that?
That's what drove the cost up a lot.
Yeah, and we have to increase basically put very long walls in here to keep the slope out of the stream and out of the wetlands.
Huh.
So we don't want to fill the river, and we don't want to fill the wetlands, so that's the lot of the cost associated with that, with those walls. So,
How high will those walls be?
they're probably approximately, probably similar to the height of the walls that are out there today, maybe a little bit taller, right at the bridge.
So that
So we're probably talking
the top.
14 feet. At its highest point. Now, as it goes up the slope, obviously, you're gonna have a shorter wall.
Biggest difference probably being you don't have the parapet height.
Yeah, you don't have a parapet today, so you're gonna have to add that extra.
right there.
Again, obviously, the parapet's gonna offer you that traffic safety, that, concerns that you have with keeping cars
That's all,
within the barrier and trucks and so forth.
that's all reinforced concrete then?
Yes, reinforced concrete, designed for impact loads and so forth. So, and then again, I also have the guide rail treatments, off of those walls as well. And so in these areas too, again, protect people from going off down these steep slopes. Here and here.
Could just close the road, and... No one?
FHWA would be okay with that. Elimination of the structure entirely would be okay with that.
Some cul-de-sacs.
And what about like as far as, because I know this is probably gonna impact, Henry and me a little bit more than anybody else. It's a line of trees right along there that provides privacy and screening to both his house and my house. Are those trees all going away, or?
Maybe replace them when they-
Yeah, I mean, that's something that obviously through the right-of-way process, which I'll have Mike Marzi,
Yeah,
DOT rights-of-way, talk about those things and how those negotiations go.
yeah,
That's something that they can accommodate, some kind of screening. So he can get into that in more detail. But essentially, as far as during construction, we're looking into also using as much precast components as possible for this bridge structure again. Two things, it makes it a little more durable, and then also it's a lot quicker to install. Because again, we're recommending that, the quickest way to get this project done is to close the road. I mean, the disadvantage of that is that now you're detouring traffic, and there's an impact to the traffic. However, with all these precast components, which is Accelerated Bridge Construction, ABC. We're gonna, we're optimistic that we get the project done within a 3 to 4 month period.
Huh.
So you're gonna substantially ease the downward, the slope at the toe of the hill, so it goes more gradually.
What's that again?
Based on your design there, you're showing existing and then the proposed, and it's more of a straight line and ease as opposed to.
Instead of coming down, really dipping in.
Right, it's gonna be a little more flatter or gradual. Yeah, again, this is kind of an engineering thing. We always exaggerate the vertical scale, so it makes it look a lot worse than it really is. But, so again, closing the road during construction. And as far as right-of-way impacts, I'm gonna have Mike Marzi, the DOT right-of-way, stand up and talk about that, and what kind of, essentially, we're anticipating 6 properties will be impacted, primarily easement for support and safety of highway, and 1 easement to drain. We can get into that in more detail.
Thank you very much. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Again, my name is Mike Marzi, and I represent the state of Connecticut, Department of Transportation, Office of Rights of Way. And our office has charge of buying up anything needed for any bridge project. In this case, instead of mentioning, there's easements needed for this project. There's no taking of land. There's no taking of land. You won't lose a square inch of property if you are a property owner. What you see here on the map in red is the street line and also the property lines. And what you see in green are easements, be it for support of the road or safety of the road. Okay? And there's 5 or 6, as Dennis mentioned. Now, the way our office works is right now we just started conducting a title search to find out who owns this property. Right now, information you see here was obtained from the assessor's office. Doesn't mean that's the actual owner. By statute, we have to go back 4 years to a warranty deed and establish ownership. Okay. Once that's completed, a property map will be drawn up and sent to the property owner who's impacted, showing you greater detail of that property and what's impacted than what's shown here. In other words, your property map, once you receive it, will show if there's any certain species of trees or anything that's in that easement area to be acquired. And it's important because when the appraiser comes out to visit you, they will call you, they'll send a letter, and they will want to know if you'd like to be on a tour of that area. They have to see what's impacted. You have to show them if there's anything that's missed. And not just on the surface, there may be some underground sprinkler systems, septic systems. This is just examples. We don't know that.
Yeah.
Even species of trees, because at this time of year, they may be looking at a bare tree. It may have value. It may be a Japanese maple versus a swamp maple. You know those are totally different trees, even though they're maples. And price plays a factor. So the map will be sent to the owner again with a letter that explains our procedure. So what I'm going to say here now is repeated in that letter. So again, the appraiser comes out, views the property. Again, it's highly recommended that you accompany him or her on a tour of that property so that you pick out anything that's missed or anything that's on it that shouldn't be on there. Maybe remove something, okay? And they'll make note of it. It's a very simple process. Our appraisal is based on fair market value. Okay? And we can't just grab a number out of the air. In other words, we'll look in the area, see what's sold, what the square footage is or was, or come up with a value for that taking. Okay? I use the word taking, and it's wrong because I should say impact. I just said there's no taking of land, so I want to straighten that out.
Friendly acquisition.
Quote unquote.
Right. An acquisition is the term we should be using. Not taking. There's no taking of land. It's easements. An easement's an encumbrance on the property, for those who don't know. You still own the land underneath, it's just that the encumbrance is on top. In this case, it would be in favor of the town eventually. An easement in favor of the town. We, the state of Connecticut, act as an agent for the town in the acquisition of right-of-way. Once this is acquired and built, it becomes the town's easement on your property. Okay, and there's two types of easements. There's a slope for support and a slope for safety. What's support? It's a fill. Safety is the cut. You saw it down here. The brown is for safety, the green is for support. Right. Thanks, Dennis. Once the appraisal is completed, personnel from our office will come out to see you again to make an offer. Okay, we'll give you an offer. And it's a one price offer. When I say one price offer, there's wiggle room in there. The old days, you'd say, take it or leave it. And then if you didn't like it, get the property by eminent domain. Well, it's different now. There's wiggle room. It costs a lot of money to go to court, both for us and you. And I welcome you to question that offer if you feel it's unjust. Sit down, talk to the negotiator, let's find a common ground, okay? Again, it's fair market value, and by law we have to do that. But we also recognize that by going to court for both of us, it doesn't pay off, so there might be wiggle room in there to make a friendly settlement. Okay? Once that offer is agreed upon, we'll set up a closing, similar to that if you were to buy a house, and we'll go through the paperwork. Unfortunately, if it goes to condemnation, again, it is your right. You don't have to accept our offer. I'm not saying you have to. But if negotiations fail, and we have to build this project, that's the tool we have to build it. We have to acquire that property, and that's by eminent domain. The money is then deposited with the court. An appeal is heard by a state referee, and the money can be withdrawn at any time. But once that money is withdrawn, the case is over, if you don't choose to appeal. Now, all this will be explained in greater detail as the process goes on. I'll expect you to remember this. And you're welcome to call us at any time. I have limited cards with me tonight because the budget is tight and running out. So if I don't have enough, you can share with it. And I have some booklets with me that you're welcome to have that explains our procedure. They have some commonly asked questions. You're welcome to take it, read it, review it. If there's any questions after that, call us. We'll be out to see you. You can call me at any time. You're going to see a lot of personnel between now and the time we acquire. I'll be your little common face throughout this whole thing. If someone gives you an issue or you want to talk to me, and I could be your conduit to engineering, be it anyone in the town, the consultant, or state. All right. Also, it's not shown on here, and I don't expect any. Dennis, you can jump in. Yep. There's no temporary rights. What are temporary rights? Temporary rights are non-compensable. When you look at temporary rights, it's something that's of benefit to the property owner. And I don't know why I bring it up, because I don't see any, but let's say you had a driveway that came out to the road, and because of the sloping, be it cut or filled, you had to adjust the driveway back beyond the slope limit. The point beyond the slope limit, we would ask your permission to chase that driveway to a nice eventual grade, a smoother grade, instead of cutting it off abruptly. That, I would ask your permission if we could do that. Should you say no, say thank you for your time, we leave it at the slope limit. But you may have a little, not a sharp drop, but something that's a little more uncomfortable. Okay, I don't see that happening here, but I want to explain it to you. Should the plans progress to the point where maybe we have to. And don't worry about, remember this, because we'll explain it through the whole process. So that's the right-of-way process in a nutshell. Okay, and again, I have my booklet. You're welcome to take it, and a card, and we look forward to working with you in the time. Thank you.
What happens if they have to access their property through that right away? They have no problem doing that?
That's my worry there, because my driveway, I share a driveway with, that comes in on Skip's land, which is the farthest one to the top right there.
Okay, so you're off the limits.
And I'm on it's an easement, right?
That's a shared right of way,
Okay.
as opposed to the actual frontage is the lower down, it's the frontage for the lot. So if for some reason that right of way goes away or gets dissolved,
It won't.
well, it wouldn't, because it's in the deed. But if they chose to use the frontage, they have the opportunity to do that, to go through wetlands and go through the process, if they chose to, because that's their legitimate frontage. But in order to get access to the property as part of that subdivision, that shared right-of-way was created. So, but they still have the right to use, the property owners still have the right to use their frontage if they choose to.
That would just be my biggest worry.
I don't think there is a worry.
Yeah,
Looking at this. But once,
words, you know, I mean,
here's how I'm gonna answer that.
yeah,
Again, title search is being conducted.
yeah,
And I'll look at where this is, who
Yeah.
has what,
yeah,
and we'll go from there.
Well, one thing you may want to do is discuss the sight line even more, so that if you do the cuts, if you ever did have to put a driveway through there, you could get your sight line. You could
Yeah.
get 200 feet.
I'm not going through wetlands again, so whatever. That's
No, I mean, I don't
freaking
expect-
nightmare, you know,
Don't
so,
expect it, yeah, but,
It's changed.
yeah,
But this is for site, this cut,
I think I will say this, if you're on the inside of that curve, if you're proposing to ever put an ingress egress point,
yeah,
we make your sight lines and your engineering ability to do that much better in this project.
yeah, no, I know what
You
you're
would-
saying.
You would have a hard time.
It goes like that, no, I know,
A diligent engineering PS&E, planning and zoning, would
yeah,
probably not allow you to put an ingress point.
yeah,
If you could improve safe ingress egress.
yeah, with that corner
And
there.
likely,
No, I
I
know,
believe without that.
yeah,
Without that.
I just don't wanna lose the ability to access that part of my
What I'm
property.
saying is it would not be taken away in the
Yeah,
project.
yeah. And it's not, excuse me, it's not just me, it's also that, I was telling you guys about that 6-foot right of way that the hunters have there, because they used to, like where you show that area with all the erosion there, that's their parking area. And then they would walk up that right of way to access their land in the back. So I think out of anybody, as far as right there on the edge of the road, they're gonna be the most impacted. Now, what they do now is they drive down my driveway, let them park in my driveway at the end because their property is right there, they're nice guys, they're not, you know, they give me meat every once in a while, you know.
we can give you some.
But it would just, you know, just so you know, they haven't heard anything about it, you know, so.
Oh, you know, like I said, let's let it all bear out.
Yeah.
Title search, you're gonna be in contact with me anytime you want.
Yeah,
Straighten things out, correct me if you want,
right.
if anything's wrong.
I think that kind of speaks to when Mike was mentioning that when it's time to appraise and walk the property,
yeah,
those are exactly the
Yeah,
kind of
those are
things
what
he's
we need to
talking
know.
about.
yeah,
When
We're at
somebody walks
30%.
up and says, this is what we do here, you know, it's not evident, but this is what happens.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that'll get back to designers, it'll get back to Dennis, and the town is aware of it, and if everybody's on board, we'll make it happen.
Yeah.
Can you explain once again what you're going to do with that bank of land that you're gonna cut off? You're gonna take all the trees out?
Yes,
Yes.
yeah, all that has to, basically all those trees will have to come out.
And then what will you do?
Well, he's gonna lay that slope back, so
To
again, you have to
what degree?
It'll look similar to this, and this is actually a 2-scale, not exaggerated. Essentially, the bank that's there today is this top line.
Give us some widths, Dennis.
Yeah,
Give her-
what's the
how wide is
slope
that? How wide is that?
This is about a 1-to-1 slope, or...
Is that 20 feet?
How wide? How wide is the cut?
Looks
How wide
like
is
20
that?
feet.
Along the road.
20 feet.
Yeah.
20 feet.
20, yeah, 15, 20 feet. What, yeah,
And
what
you're
is
gonna
this?
cut it down to street level?
No.
No,
No.
just, well, yeah, okay,
How many feet there, 10? At your finger.
out here, yeah, it's
Yeah.
about, 10 feet.
So imagine the edge of
10
road
feet
being
off,
widened out,
and
10 feet,
yeah,
and then up.
the slope.
So the slope will be the underside of that,
Yes.
whatever
right.
shape you want to
The
call
new
it,
shape is
trapezoid, yeah.
basically palm my finger here.
Yeah,
And that'll
Oh,
be
that
it.
red, the brown
The bottom
material's
is-
coming out.
is the
Yeah,
removed
yeah.
material.
This is all, this is all cut.
And that's a
how
riprap
many
underneath there.
cubic feet of material will that be?
I don't have that number off the top of my head, but
And what will you do with that material?
I mean, all that stuff will either used as, if it's suitable, we'll use it for fill, you know, behind the walls and so forth, when we reconstruct the bridge, or we'll have to truck that off.
And then you'll revegetate that property?
Yes,
And has that been decided what you would do there?
not at this point. no.
Yeah.
The federal government would participate in cost of plantings, if that's the way That's the way.
native species? I would hope.
Absolutely.
Yes.
They work with
yeah,
their property owners and
Yes. And that'd be part of the right-of-way process.
Let me make a better point, if there's, native species in the area anyway, for sure, but
Yes.
no one's gonna balk at an additional cost of vegetation based on removal of trees and brush. Not at all. We will provide, a reasonable 80%, the federal government will participate in 80% cost of a reasonable planting plan.
Again, this will be more of a gentle slope, so we can actually just, that could be established with, this turf established with grass,
what happens if they have ledge in there?
and that's part of the cost.
Then you would have to dynamite it out.
Or we could do, because there's residents there, we would
Hammer.
use dynamite.
A
Not
jackhammer?
non-explosive methods, mechanical methods,
Bing, 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 bing.
Oh,
just fun too. But less,
So you
Would
can send.
we not know that? Would we
So
not know that?
the state's going to send all the residents to Florida for 6 months.
I'm on guard for it.
That's part of the deal, right?
Only if we can come.
We'll have to spare room.
Property is cheap down there.
Just a question for you. You said that you went through a couple of different reviews of the bridge replacement versus new bridge type of thing.
right.
Now, when you decided, I guess through the DOT report, that it required to be replaced,
Yes.
was there more than one design looked at, or just one design and this is it?
No, we looked through, basically, there's several different things you can do here. We looked at 2 viable replacements for this particular structure and the size of it and so forth, which is again that corrugated single pipe that I talked about, a little bit bigger, and then the 3-sided precast concrete box. So we looked at the 2 different alternatives. At rehabilitating as well, but we would have to put a liner in here, and then what happens with that too is then that has to be structural liner, and those are actually more expensive than we think, and also we would have to still put, because we have to widen the road, we'd still have to put, extensions to the existing walls and so forth to keep everything, the slopes in again.
And with that double culvert, you also get a lot of debris, gets
Yeah, and that's a good point.
All the ones
On
we
the
have.
upstream side, basically the double culverts and having this, that almost looks like a pier, essentially, this block in between, that's a, perfect spot for debris to get captured. Actually, this is the upstream side, so right here, you see kind of getting some a little bit there now in the photo. So this sort of opens everything up. But we did look into several different alternatives.
So you looked at refurbishing what existed
Yes,
and one plan for a new replacement.
no, two.
Two.
for a
And
single pipe and that's.
Single pipe and then a single
and
box.
then this open bottom
Box,
box,
correct.
which is much better for fish passage.
Yes, but fish passes, the other thing too, the other thing to keep in mind that actually the pipe that we're using, the pipe kind of maxes out on its size.
Mhm.
One of the things to consider is, because of the skew, the actual skew length of the overall structure plays an important role too with whether it's going to stay within, under eligible for federal funding or state funding, and then also if it's also eligible for the state to be inspecting it on every 2 years. And that distance is like 20 feet. So if the bridge turns out to be overall length along the skew is less than 20, then it wouldn't be eligible for federal funding in the future. There's one issue. So that smaller pipe wasn't long enough to do that, or wide enough to open it. And then it wouldn't be inspected by DOT on a regular basis, which is another thing. So we actually made it a little bit wider to make sure that we matched, made sure it was over 20 feet along the skew. So it's still fairly, in the future it'll still be federally eligible for federal funding, and also be on the schedule, DOT's schedule for inspection every 2 years.
Part of it too is the
Two fibers.
lifespan of the pipe versus the concrete.
Right, again, the precast concrete has more durability to it, has a little more lifespan than the corrugated pipe. Again, the corrugated pipe that they have today is different from the ones that we used back when this was built in the 40s. It's actually aluminized pipe, so that it has more resistance to the corrosion and so forth.
But if you did use one single corrugated pipe,
Right.
it would have much less of a footprint on the existing property, correct?
Ultimately, you'd still have to put just as many, actually the layout of the walls and everything would be the same. The only thing that would be different is this opening here would be slightly smaller. So either you have 13 feet or you have 128 inches, which is just over 10 feet.
But it would still have to be the same length, whatever,
Yeah, but we couldn't make that any bigger. So with the skew, it ended up being less than 20 feet, so it would have fell
Okay.
off the.
oh, I understand, because the angle there, I got you.
Yes,
Yeah,
because the
yeah.
angle, it makes it obviously,
Yeah.
the distance along the center line here
Mhm.
has to be greater than 20 feet.
I think primarily it's more based on the fact that it is more environmentally friendly as well, with respect to fish passage and that kind of thing, as well as the maintainability.
Yep.
I wouldn't get too hung up on the funding eligibility, but
But that helps.
it does figure in a little
It is a big part of
bit.
it if you can't
Sure.
get funding
In the
because
future,
it's
yeah.
too short.
Yeah.
That would blow the whole project.
But,
wouldn't
yeah,
it?
they're doing all I think the right things for the right reasons primarily.
Yeah, and for funding. I think that's the biggest
Yeah.
part of it.
And ultimately, based on the cost comparison, we looked at both of those alternatives, they were within, probably like 100,000, when you're talking $2 million project, that's a small percentage of difference. So three-sided boxes is slightly more expensive than that corrugated pipe, but then there's a lot more benefits to it.
Right.
So-
Now, go ahead.
Going that way back down Peck Orchard, if you're gonna be rolling all this big heavy equipment and trucks and whatnot up there, are you guys gonna, will there have to be any other work done to that road at all to,
Not sure if they would be.
yeah, how big are these cast pieces that you're bringing in, whatever?
They're, obviously, the size of them has to be limited so they can transport them.
Uh-huh.
So usually they gotta be no more than 12 feet wide to fit on a flatbed.
Yeah,
And they're not gonna be that big because of the weight issue, to be able to pick those.
yeah, you'll have to get a crane in.
Yeah.
And then,
So we're talking, again, the culvert pieces, they come in like sections.
yeah,
They'll be, I don't know, probably 6 feet wide, but they'll follow askew. Look kind of like a table, basically, just legs in the top. And those are probably gonna be one of the bigger pieces. The retaining walls will be probably cut in maybe 8-foot sections maximum.
and how will the project go? Are you gonna set up on one side and do something and then move to the other side and do something, or?
Yeah.
Are you a detour? Did you address that? Are you a
What's
detour?
that?
Are you a detour?
Yes, definitely.
So the contractor will have all of that
Both sides.
along both sides to put equipment.
Yeah,
But ultimately, one of the things that's typically discussed, but one of the things they have to stage is the handling of the water itself, to be able to remove the existing structure, handle the water appropriately, so that the contractor can do this work in the dry.
Is there a bypass pipe?
Yes, there will be, essentially, we're gonna be able to use, one of the advantages of the two-cell, we'll be able to use one of the cells for temporary bypass.
huh,
And cut half of this, build the first, like a button on one side, and retaining walls on that side. Get that, and then get the basically the shift, basically have to put some copper ramming up here and then run the water against the new abutment. And take this out and then build the other side and put the three-sided box down. So there's some staging that has to go on and handling that. And that's part of this next phase that we're gonna go into.
who would be in charge of where the road is closed and how that all works and?
That's part of our job in the state. to
Yeah.
find Where those limits are, yeah.
And as
And
far
again,
as,
you probably, Definitely there'd be barriers, traffic barriers that would drop off into
Yeah.
the interior.
Yeah,
It have to be well noticed.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. There's gonna be several warning signs and so forth throughout the detour route.
and what about like for people that have children, where there's a school bus that's gotta turn around, have you guys thought about that at all, or? No,
If there is,
you
you
have
know, if there is buses, then it's
Yeah.
something we can accommodate.
What months do you expect the project to be completed?
I mean, that's another thing too, is if it's only gonna take 3 to 4 months, we may be able to wait until July 1st
Yeah,
to start the project and get it done before the winter season. So it's another thing, we've done that before. is
Yeah.
Wait till after the school season to close the road.
What's your current schedule, Dennis?
What's that?
Did you state the current schedule, spring 16 construction?
No, I'm just gonna get into that. So, as far as remaining tentative schedule for the project, again, we're wrapping up our 30% preliminary design, submitting that next month, early next month. Usually there's a little bit of a shutdown period for FHWA approval to get notice to proceed to final design. So that would, typically that's a 30 to 60 day window. So we're hoping to get that notice in June and get our semi-final, which is about 70% design plans, done in July. We're also, at that time, we'd like to start initiating our permitting. Fortunately for this particular project, again, because it's a small watershed and so forth, there's no floodway, we don't have to go through we don't have to get a flood management certification, so that saves a lot of time. Sometimes that takes 3 to 6 months to get turned around on average. So we're only, all we have to do is do local inland wetland approval. So that, typically that takes about a 2 to 3 month time span.
So when do you think you would be applying to inland wetlands?
We'd be looking at probably in July or August, I would tentatively say, of this year.
And then on to, you have to go to the planning and zoning as well?
Typically, we don't have to, but again, it's a requirement. If the town wants us to, we can actually do that too as well. But it's not always required. That's something we can do. And then again, we get final design in the early fall, bid-ready documents for construction in December, advertise early January, and then construction could begin again, depending on when you want to begin it.
Probably as soon as-
As early as April of 2015. And-
But you may want to wait until school.
Yeah, exactly, so.
With an accelerated construction, you probably could get away with a, late May, early June start and still be done by September.
Right, exactly.
At least open to traffic to let buses go through. I think it might be a good idea just for everyone to look at the bus route and have a contingency plan.
there's
To
only
assure
2
that
buses, Granville goes up, Hartland goes down, turns around, and goes back up. That's all that would be.
Does it turn around at the state line? Is that what it-
It turns around just, if you go back down that road, there's a hill where you say, oh my God, I'm gonna die, that's where it turns around.
It's right about at the Granby line.
Yeah, like those 100 yards up from the Granby line.
But don't they
Are there
turn
any-
down above it too?
Are there any
Like turns around
hiccups?
on the Granville line, right?
Where's
No, she comes straight up Peck Orchard, and she picks up, where that log cabin is, that's her pickup. And then I think she continues up to South Lane, I think she goes straight up from there.
So they don't use the turnaround?
At the top, no,
The state board?
No.
Construction.
That's something you'll have to work out with the.
Can this construction take place any time of year though?
Ideally, you want to do it in
Right.
dry elements, which typically is between April and
You
November.
got a lot of paving too.
Yeah,
You want summer months for paving.
yeah, until November.
And will the,
yeah, November, you kind
Yeah,
of, early December, you kind of push.
it's cut off, yeah.
We've had snow in
plants.
October, so.
Yeah.
will the stream be shut off completely at any point?
No.
No, that's what like I was talking before, we'd have to handle, bypass the water temporarily and then build that in stages.
Now, there's a tremendous amount of runoff below that bridge. how do you think this project will change that?
Which particular area? You point to the map, or is it? I know
Down
there- I
into
know
the
currently-
stream.
What's that, right in here, there was, again, the old,
The whole
Whole structure
stream
stops
to
here.
the left of the map, from the bridge all the way down. There's a tremendous amount of runoff.
over here, you mean? This whole area?
Yeah.
Yeah, the entire area. You can take all the sand that they put on the road for the snow, and you have yards and yards and yards.
I imagine that's the bottom of the hill.
That's the bottom of the hill.
Yeah.
So how will this impact it?
I think
It's
that's
not
the
gonna make
reason,
it, because I know there's gonna be improvements.
that's why I wanted you to put the cleanouts in there,
Yeah.
to trap that sand so we can remove it before it gets into the stream.
Yeah, I mean,
I
that's
just see
gonna
one on
improve
this
this
side,
side.
so.
But like
As far
how
as-
long is that wall that's right there from the,
This here, it's,
Yeah.
it's a good 60 feet long.
oh, okay. So it's like the guardrails that are there now, whatever, sort of similar.
Yeah. But again, that'll be all, this area will all be blocked off, so we won't have runoff here.
Yeah, but when it gets to the end
When
of
it gets to
that,
the
it's
end,
just
it's
gonna
gonna run
dump
off.
right in.
Yeah,
But again, there's only gonna be, actually a small area of sheet flow. Just basically half the lane, and from here to here, that's,
It's more or less-
Comes off though, I
Yes.
mean, you like
Yes.
riprap or whatever.
yeah, if there's riprap that's needed, I mean, again, I talked to my drainage engineer, and he was saying that the velocities here aren't that bad once it goes around, because again, we're kind of, that area is relatively small, and we're doing, most of it's being captured and up here and here. So the only thing that's bypassing is just this.
then it's more or less gonna be, it's gonna be flat, just a crown in the,
What's that?
and that'll be more or less a flat area, not much of a,
The road, you mean?
yeah, well, I know it slopes down to the, to the bridge, but-
And it's sloped at the bridge. It goes from.
Cross-section
not-
wise,
not
you mean?
flat at the bridge.
Yeah.
It goes,
yeah,
Cross-section wise, I mean, there's gonna be, yeah, there's like a high
Yeah.
point at the center, and
Yeah.
basically about a 2% slope. A quarter inch per foot.
yeah.
Any water that goes to the right side going down, there's a culvert there, would come back underneath into the roof.
Where's that now?
There's a cross culvert there now,
Yeah, it's just right here, there's a cross.
so any water that goes over there will
Well,
come back.
on this side,
across.
but there is like a little low area here for some storage too.
So you said that there was a traffic study done?
They did traffic counts. They
Yeah, I
actually put
remember the
an
lines.
automatic traffic recorder
Yeah,
across there, and they looked at the speeds and looked at average daily traffic, which was just over 400 vehicles a day.
is there a way we could get a copy of the speed data and forward that to the state police if we wanted to, or help us out a little bit there? or-
You
It's
can.
public.
I don't think they got license plate pictures, but.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think they just want to show how fast people go into the state police have a reason to go out there.
That's a, yeah,
It's pretty scary
public
if you're
document.
working out there on the road.
That's yours. That's your report.
Actually, the town actually has a copy of the Blue Engineering report that has the traffic data in the appendix.
Public information.
we'll just give them our license plate numbers and say, don't stop us, but, you know.
Stop everybody.
Yeah,
But what they do is they typically try to base design on 85th percentile, so that's the 85th percentage of the cars are going at that particular speed.
yeah,
They give the top
Obviously, there's
speed.
some that are higher than that,
Oh,
and some
yeah.
that are lower, but
lower, yeah.
What's the top speed down through there?
that, yeah, they
Pretty
actually don't
impressive,
get that,
isn't it?
yeah. Probably 50,
Probably more than 50.
especially the downhill, and
And you say the town has a copy of
Yes, they
this
do.
traffic
Right.
report?
yeah.
Okay.
Now, and then also, this is, since the bridge is new, I mean, they already roll up and down there with some pretty big, heavy trucks.
Yep.
I mean, do you anticipate that, since we do this now, that there'll be even more truck traffic or something like that, or?
Is
what do
it
you-
posted? Right now, is it a limited? Didn't know. I would say yes if we were posting it for a low tonnage.
And then
And
change
then
it?
it would change to,
Yeah.
no limit. But since there isn't a limit, then it won't get any.
They don't, I mean, they don't have a lot of
Don't even know.
options when they come down there, because they can't turn left on Water Street, because they can't make it underneath the low bridge at the Noble and Cooley factory, and they don't want to turn right and have to go down 179, so
You're pretty safe with no changes as far as truck traffic.
just listen to the Jake brakes.
Can
Yeah, I
the,
bet you're a lot of that, huh? Downhill?
You've heard me yell at them before, haven't you?
can the say do
Oh.
Depends on who it is.
a study, a traffic study after the bridge is completed? I mean, would that be possible, just to?
Yeah, I mean,
so
they
we
could
can
put
show
a,
that-
actually, the company that does ours is actually very affordable. It's for like $300, you can have put an ATR out there, automatic traffic.
Because that's one thing, it's always been a problem if we get the police up there to try to slow people down. Right now, it's,
But you can put those signs up that tells you how fast you're going.
And then they'll try and see how fast they can go.
Kids do, for sure.
we put the camera on too.
So is there a weight limit on this road?
Right
No.
now, no.
None, not in Hartland, not in Granby.
Not for the structures. You'll never get a weight, I've never seen a weight limit on a roadway, but you have limited weight on bridges, and that's what I was asking earlier. This is not a limited
No. It's not-
today,
It's not
so
posted for a lower weight limit based on its
based on condition.
condition, structural condition.
But the road itself in Granby has been posted for
Really?
weight limit.
Just without a bridge, huh?
Yes.
That's interesting.
Mhm.
That may be Granby's way of limiting trucks.
Well, the sign's not that big anymore, that's why I was curious.
Yeah, probably because a couple of truckers.
Well, they're limited with their options on the ways they can get up to access that area, you know, I mean, it's Mountain Road, which is just this big, you know, scary thing, and so, when I want a truck, I want them to be able to come up and down. Oh, that's another question that I have. I have a piece of equipment that, whatever, that I have to move, and I don't know who would answer this question. I'm gonna be impacted by that. When my low bed comes, he's gonna have to go up and around and whatnot. I mean, will I be compensated for that extra cost?
No.
You know, no,
No.
okay.
There's your answer.
Yeah, no, just throw it out there, you know. It depends, you know. I had it moved 3 times this year for my house, so, you know.
So can you work around it a little bit, so if they start in June?
If, I mean, well, it's also available for rental for
There you
the
go.
project, you know, so.
Maybe the contractor will rent it from you.
Sure.
I thought you were bidding on it,
Oh, no, I would, something that side, no way.
Okay, has there been an environmental study done?
Environmental study, I mean, as far as wetlands have been flagged.
Environmental review at the state level, an environmental review to
Yeah.
determine endangered species,
Right.
possible wetland. We have no flood management certification here?
No flood management.
So from the respect, when we start every project, whether it's a local project or a state project, we start with an environmental review request. Our environmental planning agency comments on our involvement from everything related to endangered species, state historic preservation office, wetland issues, floodplain management issues, all of the socioeconomic, and it's a task of the designer and our office to make sure that the project goes through all
And
those
that
steps.
office is the office of,
Environmental. plan.
Environmental planning through the Department of Transportation.
okay.
And I know there's no currently there's no endangered species on it as far as that goes, you know, that.
And what's the timing of the study? When does that happen?
We have to resubmit every 2 years. It cannot be older than 2 years.
That's the NDBD.
Is it 3 years?
3 years, every 3
The
years.
NDBD is not done yearly?
Well,
Every
that's
6 months.
that's updated every 6 months. The endangered species maps that the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection has, those are updated every 6 months. And they have kind of a obscure clouds
Yeah,
which show the general area that you might have endangered species in.
Yeah.
And if you fall within that area,
Yeah.
it has, some further action is necessary. We're not in that case, but it's rechecked every 6 months to make sure we're not until the project is built. That's one of the items that they check for. There's also a state historic the DOT has a historic preservation specialist who will go out in the field and evaluate this structure, make sure it's not on the National Register of Historic Places or anything, and there's no effect with respect to the cultural resources. There's also even tribal historic preservation officers are checked, but that's all been done. They even look at things, public source water, drinking water, we check with them, Department of Health.
So has all this already been done
It's already
prior
been
to
done.
this
Right.
proposal?
Yes.
So let's be clear on something.
And
It's
the
a
reports
checklist.
of those reports?
No, and that's where I thought you were going. Let's be clear on this. It is not a study. This type of and size of project does not require a full environmental study like you may be used to, and I'll exaggerate, on Route 11. That's been studied for 30 years when we try to take on something like that. Something of this nature does not require a full environmental study, merely an environmental review checklist of things for us to look into. There's no report, there's no study. Our environmental planning office says, here's a checklist. You have to contact the State Historic Preservation Office, contact the Department of Environmental Protection to find out what endangered, if any endangered species are in the area. And so there, if you're looking for a study or any report, there is not going to be one.
Okay. When we had voted on hiring this engineering firm to go on to the next step, of which you're showing us now, at that meeting, I was told there would be an environmental study. And that's all I was referring to. I didn't know who was going to do it, whether it be the town, the state, the federal government, or the engineering firm. But at that point, before we voted, it was said there would be an environmental study done. And that's what I'm referring back to. Has Northwest Conservation District taken a look at this plan?
Not that I'm aware of.
Fairly
With the
good
wetlands,
idea.
can have them review it, right?
Yes, yes. Again, when we go through the wetland application process, obviously they can get additional copies of that if
Okay. I
necessary.
thought maybe they were involved at this point.
No.
There'll be we'll have another meeting like this too before,
I guess the inland wetlands that could open up to a public hearing where the public is invited to that, depending on what the commission decides. If they consider it a significant activity.
Just to.
So there'd be another forum.
Just to kind of, take away some of the concerns that got raised are,
Yep.
one is potential sand stump, because they sand the road, sand traps and/or sumps and/or collection areas, and the curvature of the road is going to have a crown, but then the plowing for a snow shelf and how that affects the riprap, and, if they're doing wing blade or not, and if there's enough of a snow shelf, they'll be plowing up, so that with the parapet wall, you'll unload at the end of the bridge going up, and on the downward side to allow for a snow shelf there for a large amount of snow coming down. So those are probably, and then soil stabilization, slope plantings on the bank cutback, how it's eased in. And then the other concern, again, this is noise because of coming in, you have a large bank, which is a substantial sound buffer, which is great going for traffic going up the hill, but you'll lose that. And so now it will carry quite a way. So that will be part of the vegetation plan, part of the slope. And so those are kind of things that you will probably want to address at some point along the path. And it's a great design at first glance, but
no, it looks nice.
Certainly those are things that, for a maintenance point of view for the town, because they're going to live with this for quite some time. And there is a substantial amount of sand that gets put onto that slope, and some of it by Hartland, but much of it from Massachusetts that comes rinsing down it really isn't. And we are affected as much by things that happen across the state border with a catch basin primarily that gets blocked up. And once it does that, it bypasses and takes everything with it. And so we've cleaned out the street more than a couple times because of that. Not because of something that happened in Connecticut, but because of Massachusetts. So just those are kind of things, when that happens, it will fill that riprap relatively quickly.
Yeah, there's some serious trees up there and a lot of leaves that actually plug up everything. Water runoff, like you said, from up above, and the fence line is really severe.
Are we gonna get somebody's card or something like that? Because, you know, I'll call the hunters and let them know, you know, or should I just let it roll, you know? Because I don't even know if, I would assume Skip would be here. I didn't think to call him. You know, I don't know if he got notice or not, and I don't see marking a lane on that map, and,
All the neighbors were supposed to be notified, right, Maggie?
We billed everybody that lived on Peckworth Road,
okay.
and the fire departments and the ambulance.
Even Skip, even though he has a PO box, or?
Everybody, what we did was had the assessor give us all the names, everybody that lives on the road.
Okay.
As far as cards, I can say this, you're welcome to have everybody's phone numbers and emails that are here representing either the state.
Yeah.
CJM acts as, I don't know how clearly that was defined, CJM, these two folks here for CJM,
Yeah.
they're a liaison engineering firm that help the department manage, 3,000 bridges in the state of Connecticut on the local level and on the state level. And so they're really a management firm who in this instance, Bob and Mike here are helping me manage this project. So you're welcome to call me on the engineering side.
It's not for me, it was more for the folks that weren't here and might not have known about it.
I'll
you know?
leave cards, Mike may not have enough cards, but you'll have everybody's name and number, and
Yeah.
anybody is welcome to contact us at
Yeah.
any point, along with Dennis at WMC, and then if anyone.
I can give you my card.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna hand, that's all I wanna do is be able to
Then I
hand
can
somebody
contact
else.
anybody that needs to be.
That way I don't, you know, they're not listening to the words that come out of my mouth, because I can be wrong, you know,
And,
so.
This meeting is being filmed and will be available both on the internet and on Granby
Oh,
TV.
okay, yeah.
Or you can probably get a disc of it and give it to whoever would like as well.
I have a question too, is you're gonna have probably a fair amount of fill left over from this project, from an excavation there. Just up around the corner on the hill, there's a bad spot there with that drop off. Is there any possibility that that can be incorporated in some of them might be able to dump there? If you get permission from the neighbors up there? I can go over it with you, but it's just
Yeah,
up the road,
I
and
guess
it's
there's-
sort of an issue there with the
Joe, is that
garden
something
back there too.
I'm sorry, come again.
He had a question about if there's, obviously, there's a potential there's gonna be excess fill.
There's just up the road there, probably at the top of that first grade where this bridge is, it's probably a couple hundred yards up there. It goes around a corner, there's a sharp corner in there, and there's a big drop off. If there's any possibility we could get some permission to dump some of the fill in there from those neighbors, if it's possible.
My first instinct is to likely try and do that after you've let the contract out between the contractor and the private property owner. Beside the idea of eligibility, which would be the first thing that, would be probably the longest thing, FHWA would say, why am I, without any disrespect, why am I paying 80% to appease something that really probably is a good idea? So I think the best way to approach that would be to keep that between you and the contractor at the time. My guess is that the contractor will be more than willing to provide,
It doesn't have to haul it,
because he doesn't have to haul it somewhere.
Yeah,
where he
yeah, get rid of it or
likely
whatever.
get rid of it.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and then even this way, the property can be worked out between you and that property owner shaking a hand rather than some real appraisal of use of the property. So you're better off doing that with me.
Yeah,
You could look at it.
Some balance, is that what you're looking for?
yeah, I can find
Might be the
out.
easiest, cleanest way.
I want to shake his hand and get something, all right?
That's up to you.
That'd probably be separate wetland permit for the town.
No, he's not on there. Oh, boy.
Yeah, I guess we have to flag that, because that was one of the things I was thinking, but I'm sure we're not filming it.
I thought about calling him, but I said he
It's
was
another bad section there, I mean,
Okay.
150. He has a PO box, and he doesn't,
We might be.
he's the guy that's gonna have the biggest problem with on the road.
Not on the list, the assessor gave us.
Skip isn't on the list.
Why isn't he on this list?
I thought about calling him today, I'm sorry, I would've.
no, I mean, he should have been on the list, I don't know how he got it.
Somebody skip.
Who gave you that list?
Assessor?
He took it off at this mailing address.
Traffic
on
there.
this,
Oh, okay, so we
I actually have a good.
handed to that guy right there. All right. Thank you. Yeah, she was.
Oh, that's probably.
And like I said, I'm not gonna bother you, it's just to give to the other,
No bother.
the guys, you know, my neighbor across the street and the guy at the hill, in case they, because I don't see him here. Phil travels a lot for business. The folks across the street, they're very busy at night, so I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't have a chance to come, just in case they have any questions.
I mean, it's no bother.
Yeah.
It really isn't.
Yeah, everybody's nice on the road too, by the way. Nobody's- Except for Skip, so enjoy, he's not on the list. No, he's a nice guy, he's a retired engineer builder, you know, so he's gonna love the nuts and bolts of this, you know,
Have them give me a call.
yeah.
Anybody else want to leave this?
Yeah, anybody whose property is impacted.
Yeah, regular properties in fact, for sure, he's got some more cards right there.
So, on this lower part of the bridge, there is a lot of stormwater runoff and he's through other types of runoff. Will you be able to do some improvements to the bottom area so that it's not running into that stream so much?
You want to get it out?
Yeah, that whole area. Tremendous amount of runoff, it's just along that
I do
bridge.
not have a card with me, so.
Oh, you're talking about sand or?
Sand and water.
Yeah, you're
Water,
all
I mean,
right.
it's gonna be hard to stop.
Part of it too is part of that's all under the program.
just like put it on a little sheet of paper.
Yeah,
Not, you know,
right.
redoing the whole entire road. So
But is
Oh,
there
it
anything you can do right below the bridge to stop the sand? Just right there,
Right here?
where the bridge is.
No, here?
Yeah, right there.
Well, here, the wall's actually gonna keep the.
Right, but when it gets
That's gonna be
beyond
great.
that wall, it's gonna
Yeah.
come right into
Yeah,
the
right around
stream.
here.
Yeah, they have to rip her out or something.
Yeah, and we could rip out this slope. That was one of the things I was talking to my drainage engineer about.
If there's any way to make it so machine out there.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have enough room, but if
Yeah, I mean,
there
it's
is,
very, it's very tiny.
if there's room.
No, he is.
I mean,
He
it
did that
is.
for
Because it's running
a
right
week
into
and
the
a half or
water,
something
right
like
into the
that.
stream. But
I
it's,
saw, I
I
know
think
he's
you're gonna
around.
get-
This
I think
sucker was
you're gonna
parked.
have a lot of
It's
problems.
captured here and push it that way.
But
I
Tucker
think
was
you're
nice,
gonna have a lot
and
of
he went right up
problems
to
if
him,
you
you
get
know,
sediment
so.
fit down here, catch, because you're gonna
It's
have
when
all
somebody's
the
outside that he's got
going
an issue.
before the
Around
Yeah.
kids.
You're not gonna have as much issue
Now,
now.
he's got issues.
After
we hope
this
so,
is done.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I didn't see the sediment on the uphill side of the bridge on this side.
Yeah,
That was a concern for me, because if you don't have some way to trap it and clean it out, it's gonna end up in the brook, which I was hoping to avoid in this.
Yeah, I think, well, a lot of the things too is that this, with the riprap, it's gonna slow those velocities down, so a lot of the things gonna settle into the riprap.
It'll slow down and it'll fill the riprap up eventually, but it'd be nice to have a couple of places to clean it out.
Okay.
I mean, otherwise it's just, once it fills
Add a
up.
couple,
I think every 10 years or so that you're gonna need to clean that riprap up.
yeah.
You're gonna see stuff growing out of that riprap in, in 7 to 10 years. And if you avoid it, it'll be nothing but a silt channel. For, after 15 years, riprap is good, but you need to maintain it. Much like if you had a grit separator, you can have all the deep sumps that you want. If you don't go in every year and clean them out, they're not gonna really work.
That's what we're gonna do, is have the sump there and clean it out.
If you were in favor of a grit, I personally, my opinion is I'm not in favor of grit separators. They require
Oh, I know
more
it.
routine maintenance.
Yeah.
Things like swales, they will fill up, but they tend to take a little longer to fill up. They're a little harder to clean, to take riprap, you're gonna be out there with a piece of equipment, shaking it and
So they were
trying to collect up the sand and then
big
get rid
vacuum
of it.
thing and.
But if you were into some sort of closed system grit separator, you can discuss that too if you want.
But you think swales would work in there as well?
Those swales that they have will work.
Yeah.
I agree that after time, they will fill in,
Yeah,
of course, but they gotta be cleaned out.
and that would be a function of
Easiest
the
option
town?
is just close
Maintenance,
it.
yeah, town owns, yeah.
You could do a maintenance plan.
Put a gate with a little remote for.
You could form a maintenance plan for the town.
as far as how often we look at the riprap, how often.
Recommendation.
Yep.
Probably the easiest maintenance plan is to remove the riprap entirely and place new riprap. Take the fines in the sand and excavate it out and
A
start.
little too much money there.
That's a lot.
It would be every 5 years they gotta put all new riprap in,
Or wait till the next bridge project in 45 years.
100 years.
just,
retired by then.
could become a commune and just, you know, close it.
We'll check for that.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Check dams are great, yes, I agree, check dams are real good. That really slows that velocity down, and you limit it to the beginning of the swale.
And it
rather than,
isolates the sediment.
That's, I think. that's
Captures
right.
it and cleans it
Yeah.
out.
And
Just
it's
more
either-
frequently.
We can talk about it, but I
Yeah.
prefer something where we can clean that sand out.
Yep.
I know that it falls me how much sand and soap goes into the river. I mean, it washes the side of the bank out too. Big storm is
You
amazing.
know, but this is about as good a road, that is a good example of needing sand, though I would never sit here and say, oh geez, this is just overuse of sand. This is
No,
where
I'm
you're
not
gonna need it.
saying that, I'm not saying that at all.
No, you need
You need it here.
Yeah,
You need it.
yeah.
It should be an improvement as far as that goes. And then the other issue is the speeding, which is the state police. That's going to have to be followed.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
We'll make a lot of money out there.
I would say too, I was just looking at from the report incidentally, the traffic data that they collected. It looks like probably going toward Mass, northbound, probably the fastest was 40 miles an hour, but coming down the hill, probably about 45 or more.
I'm sure they
And
see
that's
that.
where you,
Or more?
people go.
Oh, yeah, they go faster.
I
And
swear.
they weren't out there for a long
Yeah.
period,
It's
it
probably
was just that
1%.
window, so.
1% that goes fast.
It's pretty scary when you're out there working.
You
Yeah,
can't
we're
walk
out
on
here
the
doing
road.
the borings, it's scary.
The scary thing is you have your signs up there, men working and everything else, and it doesn't even slow
No,
down.
I know, they tried to get somebody last year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They actually, as soon as they're beside you, they just, wah.
I was out there when we were doing the borings, so I know what you're talking about.
So early, best case scenario would be spring, like for this project to start, would be
Spring of 2015.
2015, okay.
It'd probably be 2016.
Well,
I don't think we're gonna have the funding in place.
Well, it depends, again, depending on available funds.
We'd have to
We'll have the
have
permitting, we'll have all that in order, we'll have the
we would
documents.
have had to
ready.
put the budget, the
Right.
money in the budget already, and we won't have that saved. Now, originally, we were talking about a $1 million project when this first started. So it's quite a shocker that here it's a $2.1 million project now. Are the bids likely to come in lower than that, or?
Typically, they have been
15 to 20% probably,
lower.
right now. You can't say that for every single one, but
It depends.
The timing, that's why it's ideal, you want to bid this in the fall. That's usually the better time, more competitive. If you bid it towards like February or March or something, then you get maybe two, we had a couple projects recently, there was only 2 to 4 bids.
So you're saying that you haven't gotten the funding from the federal government yet?
No, they're approved of the funding.
They approved it. And is there an expiration date for the funding? Like you have to use it by a certain time?
They'll work somewhat with the town. We've got
10 years.
10 years?
Yeah.
And we have to come up with ours. I mean, obviously, it's, you know, you're figuring 200,000, now you're looking at 400,000 for down this year, so that's a little bit of a shocker.
Can we get the stream named at all during this project?
Are we unnamed brook right now?
A named tributary.
I mean, even up to Mr. Murray, I mean, he's the one that's been there for the longest. and
Well, it's a
he's gone,
$4
you know,
million
so-
brook.
$4 million?
$2 million.
Two, it's only two.
2 million, well, there'll be 4 by the time you get it.
You know what, if you guys want to name it, we'll even put a sign in the contract.
That would be nice, I think that would be.
Well, I have one more question. Because this is a federal project, does the Army Corps of Engineering get involved at all?
Yeah, absolutely.
Ah,
They do?
Well,
Yeah.
for this particular one.
This one you probably are going to be category 1,
Non-reporting.
non-reporting,
Exactly.
or self-reporting, really.
Yeah.
Because of the size of the watershed, whatever, and the stream and all, okay.
The size of the,
Low impact area, the type of water course that feeds the crossing, the watershed area. Yeah, minimal, it's a small project.
Yeah.
They recognize small projects.
So they would not be on site, you just report to them type of thing?
Yeah, they wouldn't even require a permit application to the Army Corps.
Okay.
If anybody on the road has questions, they submit it to you or the state.
What's that?
If they have questions about runoff into the stream and, things they want to address, like myself with the sediment pits, or they just, so we know they're
You
gonna,
can bring anything to my attention. I just go through your office and come to me.
so if they have questions, the neighbors, they can
Yep,
run it through our office and we get a hold of WMC. And
yep,
you contact the state or whatever.
Correct.
Okay.
there's some
As
things
far
I want
as-
to add, enhancements, and we can.
As far as the state and the government are concerned, the purpose of this meeting is to assure that the local residents were, number one, informed of the process, taken through a public informational where they were allowed to speak up and state their opinion. And from what I do here is just to assure that there isn't anyone here that is not in favor of the project, which is done. So you're going to have, you will have authorization to complete the final design probably within a month, which is your authorization to allow WMC to complete the design phase.
But they will address the neighbors' concerns as far as.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, pretty much if we said we didn't want it to go ahead, there's pretty much, what can you really do anyways? You can't fight
Well,
the state.
at that point, in all seriousness, at that point, that doesn't mean the project goes away by any means.
Yeah,
It puts the local administrators sort of in a pickle,
yeah,
where they need to then justify to the federal government. I would go back and I would say, there's a document, there's an actual document that we report on that says, we went out to public info and we found, some opposition, substantial opposition, a little opposition.
yeah,
And then really, it would be through the selectman's office, administrator's office at the local level to continue to want to move forward with the project.
yeah,
If the selectman, writes and says, "Hey, I know that there were 3 or 4 or 7 or 20, I'm gonna hold another public informational where I think I need to elevate it and see if I still have that sort of opinion, and if I do, I may decide not to move forward. Or I may decide that I still have a safety concern, I have a safety improvement in my town. So it doesn't go away, but it points out certain things, it documents, and allows the FHWA to know that the town at least went through the public informational process and informed the public.
But we do have to state that the public was not completely informed, correct? Because certain mailings didn't go to the proper, didn't get to certain people. And, you can't actually say that everybody might be in favor that the bridge needs to be replaced, but might not be in favor of the way that it's being replaced. So we can't draw that complete.
Well, I can in that the minimum requirement for public informational notice was met. Abutters meaning you people that live right there are required to be informed in writing or somehow, whether it was a phone call, you're here.
Well, that's
But
what
there
she's saying.
wasn't- there
There's one
wasn't-
neighbor that did not get informed.
And I'm just telling you, look out. That's, because he can be all for it, or he could be,
We will deal with that.
Yeah.
And again, that doesn't mean that one neighbor deciding that they weren't properly informed makes the thing go away, not by any
yeah,
means.
no,
We'll hold another information.
Yeah.
We'll come out here with that one property owner, we'll go through this again.
Yeah.
I'm not exaggerating.
yeah,
Right, but we just want to make sure the facts are out there, that is known.
no, the bridge needs to be done, and I mean,
There's no doubt that the.
it'll help with the sight line and all that, nobody here, I don't think, is saying
Right.
we're not in favor of
The
the project.
FHWA is just saying, the idea that you're gonna do something like this without letting anybody know, like maybe it used to happen, I don't know.
Yeah,
Is not with federal money, you're just gonna inform the public. I can
Yeah.
see that the public was informed, if someone didn't get a letter or didn't get informed, it certainly might have been more by accident or something happened, this isn't anything that's, someone's trying to cover up.
no, I wouldn't,
And that's the premise of us being able to move forward, that's
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
And that's what I do as oversight.
yeah,
I assure that there was an informational, we were here, we spoke to the public. Generally, I don't hear anybody, I hear good concerns, I hear
Yeah.
good comments, and that's what's supposed to happen.
Mhm.
And with that, we're gonna move forward toward final design.
yeah,
The town will get a letter that says that the federal government is approving moving forward and and will fund, that's the other thing. They're only funded in the preliminary engineering phase.
Yeah.
After a month from now, when the document is finalized and we send a letter to the town, they'll be authorized for that 80% of the federal money to move to final design. We do that again once the plans are submitted and finalized and permits are in place and right-of-way is acquired, we get authorization to spend construction dollars. The money, the federal money is there, the clearance to use the money is not there yet, until we get all of the proper documents to move to the next phase. The next phase is final design.
And the biggest thing, and one of the biggest concerns here too, besides the bridge, is the guardrail system. I mean, we've been very fortunate that we've been seriously injured there.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Do we have blunt ends on parapets, or they're all low? You don't have any blunt ends, though. You have drop-offs.
On the existing
Yeah. I don't see a parapet wall.
one? Yeah, they have
They're low.
the old, yeah,
I
they're low.
think they've gone.
Drop-off is more the issue,
Yeah.
which is bad. I don't, that's still a bad accident.
I just,
But I know, I always remember one in Washington.
Especially this side over here, it's pretty.
will they actually,
Anybody end up in the drink that you know?
they actually ended up down here. That's the scary thing to me, is how they were able to make it down there or not.
Yeah.
That's very subject.
You guys getting ready to shut it down? We got 4 minutes of tape left.
Thank you very much for your time,
The
gentlemen.
rest is gonna be,
Welcome to our wonderful town.
We're not gonna go into Frank Sinatra, are you?
You'll have cards for us.
What's that?
We'll have cards for everybody names.
Yeah, feel free to drive down Peck Orchard right now after some snow and enjoy sliding sideways.
We're gonna go 35.2 miles an hour.
Hold on.
Good meeting.
Thanks for
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks for your time.
Quick, wait adjourned.
Okay, you're all set, there's no more questions, make a motion to adjourn the meeting at 20 of 9.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
all right.
Thank you, Neil.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, good
Thank
job,
you,
folks.
gentlemen.